In this video, I'd like to show you some of my trees and plants that are setting fruit and a few that are starting to develop flower buds. I'll also show you some of my trees that are starting to come out of their dormant period. This multi-grafted peach tree was one of the first of my stone fruit trees to come out of its dormant period. This tree has multiple grafts. It has a Florida Prince, Desert Gold, Eva's Pride, and a Mid Pride. The Florida Prince, which is a clinging stone early variety, was the first to bloom. It was closely followed by the Eva's Pride, which is a freestone variety. I believe the Desert Gold, also a freestone variety, was the next to bloom, followed by the Mid Pride, which is a yellow freestone. And so far, the Florida Prince is the only one that is starting to develop fruit. This other tree here is also a multi-grafted peach tree with the same grafts as the one I just showed you. It started to bloom in pretty much the same order, but it was about a couple of weeks behind. All of the grafts are in bloom, but no fruit has started to set. These other two trees in the back, this one here is a Babcock white peach tree. It just recently started to bloom. In this group here, this is a Spice Z Nectar Plum in the front. It's the only one that has bloomed. It started to flower about 3 weeks ago. The other two nectarines in the back haven't flowered, but the buds are just about ready to bloom. This last group of trees, my apricot and aprum in the front, have not bloomed. These probably won't be ready for another 3 to 4 weeks. At least that's around the time they bloomed last year. With all of these different stone fruit varieties, the successive ripening should give me an extended harvesting period. And over here is my Dorset golden apple tree. I intend on growing this tree as an espalier tree along this area. I'll also be planting an Anna apple next to it. The Dorset has only been in the ground for about 4 months, and it's starting to flower. It never actually went into a dormant period. It never lost any of its leaves. In November, I thought about stripping off all the leaves in order to force it into dormancy. However, since it had only been in the ground for such a short time, I decided to leave it alone and let it focus on trying to establish a stronger root system. It has several flower buds, so hopefully it will be able to set some fruit in spite of the fact that it didn't go dormant. And this is my ice cream banana plant. The flowers started to emerge around 2 months ago, and as you can see, it has several banana hands forming. I'll be posting a flower to fruit on this one as soon as these are ready for harvest. This one here is my Meyer lemon tree. It's just starting to develop some flower buds. And here is my cherry of the Rio Grande. We recently had some really strong winds come through our area, and it stripped just about all the leaves off of this tree. But as you can see, it's starting to develop some flower buds. They actually started to form about 3 weeks ago. There's a fair amount of them scattered throughout all the branching. Hopefully it'll be a decent harvest. And here's my Mexicola avocado. This is loaded with flower buds. These flower buds started to develop back in November, and they started to bloom just a couple of weeks ago. This is a really heavy bloom for such a small tree, so we'll see how many of these develop. And these are my pink Barbie guavas. There are 2 trees in this area that were planted here about a year ago. I started to harvest fruit off of this tree in September. And these you see here are some of the late blooms that developed, and now they're almost ready for harvest. This is my Surinam cherry that I planted a couple of months ago. Has a good amount of buds that are getting ready to flower. This is a red variety. And this other one here is a black variety. This is a heavy producer, and I'm sure I'll get really good harvest off of it. It's got a little bit of cold damage, but it's doing fine. I'll be planting this one here in this area. I'll probably wait until mid-spring to plant it. This is my Cavendish banana plant. I have several of these throughout my yard. I like the fact that these are dwarf varieties, but I'm not particularly pleased with the plants. I had another one of these that produced fruit, and the bananas were small, much smaller than what you find in stores, and it didn't really produce all that many. I'm probably going to gift the ones I have and phase them out slowly, replace them with other varieties, possibly Manzano, also known as the apple banana. Well, that will be the end for the February tour. Before closing, I'd like to show you my planters where I intend to grow some tomatoes. My fruit trees have taken up a good portion of my backyard, so I don't have a whole lot of room to work with. I'll be using these two planters to grow some San Marzano and Roma tomatoes. I'll be clearing them out and topping off with some organic soil mix. I've already started with this planter. I'll be planting around 4 tomato plants in this one here. Hopefully that won't be too crowded. These planters measure about 4 feet in length and a little over 2 feet wide, and they're about 17 inches tall. I'll be growing them vertically, so I built this system to string them up. I'll be tying some string up here and running it down to the base of the plant. Right now it only stands about 21 inches in height. As the plant grows taller, I have these extensions that I will be adding, and that will give it a height of about 4.5 feet tall. The Roma tomatoes that will be going in here are a determinate type of tomato, so that should be high enough. This structure is made of a 2.5-inch PVC Schedule 40 pipe. It should be sturdy enough to hold the weight of the plants as they produce tomatoes. I'm anchoring it on the bottom with some scrap wood that I drilled a hole in the center and just use a couple of screws to attach it to the bottom of the planter. It's just to hold the pole in place. I also added a clip on the side to hold it, make it more sturdy. I did the same for the other end of the planter, and then I also put a center anchoring piece of wood in the center. I connected the structure with a couple of elbows and a T for the center. I've already started the tomatoes I'll be planting here. I started the tomatoes along with some melons, peppers, and squash about 12 days ago. They're still too small to plant, but I want to get these planters ready, so as soon as they put on a little bit more growth, I'll be putting them in the planter. I'll be working on this other planter next. I'll be planting some San Marzano tomatoes, which are indeterminate. They will likely put on more height than the Roma, so may need to make this a little taller, but the structure will be pretty much the same. And I believe I'm only going to put 3 in here. I'll be sure to post a follow-up video as soon as I start to plant the tomatoes. Well, that will be it for now. I hope you enjoyed watching. If so, please consider subscribing to my channel so you can follow along. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. As always, stay safe, grow your own, and thank you for watching.